In this video, we want to learn how to calculate standard deviation for an ungrouped frequency distribution. Okay, and if you guys all remember ungrouped, okay, means if you look over here, you can actually see your data down through here, and the frequency tells you how many of each of those data values that you have in your data set. Okay, we do not have boundaries, we do not have limits. That's how you know it's ungrouped. Okay, so the formula we're going to try and work with today is starting up here at variance. This one is very similar to the shortcut formula you learned previously. The only difference today is that we're going to have to tie in the frequencies to help with the calculation. But otherwise, it's going to feel very, very similar. Okay, we need 3 values to be able to fill our formula. We need to know n. We need to know the sum of the f times x's, and we need to know the sum of the f times x squares. If you know those 3 values, you can fill your formula and proceed with your calculations. Now, I've written up some steps down here in your guided notes, and if you put some of the values in your calculator, you may be able to do some of the calculation from the calculator and not necessarily need all the columns on the table like I have, but I have written them up to do by hand as well. So either way is absolutely fine. Okay, if you want to put this stuff into the calculator, I would put the actual data into L1 and your frequencies in L2. That's how I always start this. Okay, then to generate column D, you need to take f times x. So f times x is just L1 times L2. You could put that into L3. Okay, and then L4, okay, you need to square, this should be x squared. Frequency times the x is squared. So that means you have to do frequencies are in L2 times L1 squared, because that's where the x's are. Okay, so you're welcome to load that in the calculator as you feel comfortable. Okay, if you're going to go with it by hand, the next column I would fill here are the x squareds. And remember, it's the x's, okay, so these are the x's over here. Okay, not the frequency. Okay, so we need 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100 over there. All right, then by hand again, if you're doing f times x, we're multiplying in here the 5 and the 2, okay, 3 and 6, okay, and so forth. So we can fill that column in. Okay, and then finally, we want to do frequency, like the 2 times the 5 squared, okay, or the 3 times 6 squared, okay, would be like 108, and so forth, 8 times 7 squared. You just want to be careful you're picking out the right number to square. Okay, common mistake is you square them backwards and then the numbers don't jive. Okay, so there's filling in the columns. All right, so again, keeping a focus, we need these 3 values to be able to calculate the variance and the standard deviation. Okay, so n, all right, let's think, where does n come from? Okay, if you said in your mind n is the total of the frequencies, you are right on. Okay, so 24. We need the sum of the f times x's. So if you sum this fx column, or d, you get 186. And lastly, we need the sum of the f times x squared column. So down here, and you get 1500. Okay. So then I'm going to take this information and I'm going to substitute in down here where it's asking me to go through and find the variance. Okay, so this little guy here, I don't know what happened when I imported, but this thing here, let's just get rid of him. S squared is going to equal, okay, so we're going to start with your n, it's 24, times f times x squared, you're right, 1500 minus 186 squared, all over n times n minus 1. Okay, so like last time, n, 24 24 minus 1 is 23. Okay, so you can calculate across the top if you want first, 1404. Divide by, the product at the bottom is 552. Do that division, and I'm sitting at about 2.5. All right, so now remember, that's the variance. The final answer you're after is the standard deviation. Okay, so I would just hold the total decimal in your calculator because it's coming out like, if you're looking at your calculator screen right now, it's like 2.543478, blah, 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 blah. All right, that's what I would take the square root of. Okay, so hit the square root on your calculator to get that standard deviation. Okay, so if we're doing the square root of 2.543478, whatever it is, okay, should come out to be about 1.6. Okay, and again, that standard deviation is the final answer that we're after on all these. So S is about 1.6, and we should be good to go. All right, so again, review your steps if you're interested in how to get all this stuff in the calculator using those lists. I'd be more than happy to provide more details on that. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you.